7:30.
Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Twinsburg regular council meeting of March 23rd, 2021 to order. The time is 7:30 p.m. We are at the Twinsburg Government Center Council Chambers. The meeting is being held hybrid with council in person and public participation via Zoom due to the current COVID-19 statewide guidelines. Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Curie?
Here.
Mrs. Walker? Present. Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Here.
At this time, Mr. Barr will lead us in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
We ask for guidance and direction in all city matters before us tonight. We give thanks to be able to be together. Let us continue to strive to make our community a better place. Help us to work together, and may we give our best always. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the regular council meeting from March 9th, 2021?
Make a motion that the minutes submitted are accepted.
A second.
Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Curie?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stauffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Approval of the minutes passes 7-0. Do we have any awards or presentations this evening?
There are none.
Do we have any audience participation?
Yes, we have one person signed up, Michael Thurl.
Thank you. Mr. Toro? Hello? Are you there, Michael? I'm sorry?
Second. There we go. How's that?
There you go.
We can go.
Okay, I got a new phone. Let me see if I can get the picture here. Allow. Sorry about this, folks. There we go. Am I on now?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Hello, we can.
Can anybody hear me yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, council. Ms. McFerrin, I believe this is the first time I've been on since you've been council president. I would like to offer my congratulations to you on your council presidency.
Thank you.
I would like to thank Mr. Yates for his program I saw at the last council meeting where he is out to support local businesses and bring awareness and, you know, start a program through the city. Many of you know my dad started his concrete business back in the 80s after he worked for a company for almost 25 years and got laid off in the recession of the 80s. He started his business literally out of a pickup truck and a wheelbarrow. And small businesses are the bread and butter of our economy, and I'm glad to see Mr. Yates taking this initiative. This is something that I've been trying to do, you know, for the last 10 years with Twinsburg Cash Mob, bringing awareness of new businesses or, you know, getting traffic for old businesses and reintroducing them. I'm just glad to see him taking that initiative and doing that. If there's anything I can do to help with that, the Twinsburg Cash Mob, Twinsburg Roundtable page is absolutely there to help out with this. On another note, I would like to applaud and thank Mr. Scafidi for doing the hard work and finding that that email that we got where we're getting $3.7 million. This is good news for Twinsburg. It really couldn't come at a better time. I really hope that with this influx of cash that we'll be getting, that's going to be spread over 2 years, if I read the article correctly, this is something that maybe might allow council to kind of rethink this 2.4 mils while people are still struggling in the aftermath of, the past year and a half pandemic. People are struggling financially, physically. This 3.7 million dollars, whatever it is, what was an absolute, it was a godsend is what it was. It couldn't have come at a better time. And, maybe we can back off on this 2.4 for a little while and kind of reapproach this in 2 years and see how things are. But I just wanted to, you guys know I'm probably one of the biggest critics, but I like to throw out credit where credit is due, and I would like to thank everyone for what they're doing there. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay healthy. Hope to see you in April. Bye. Good night.
Bye. Thank you.
That's all we have signed up for this evening.
Okay, moving on to council communication and committee reports. Mrs. Stoffer?
Okay, so since our last meeting, I attended the comprehensive plan review meeting on March 10th at 6 o'clock. Lynn and Larry provided an overview of sustainability practices. They talked about efforts that can be taken to address some environmentally conscious operations at the city level, ones that we've already done, and then we're going to take a look at some that we can continue to do. They provided a list of prior actions we've taken to conserve energy, reduce operational costs, waste, and our carbon footprint. I don't believe we set a date for the next meeting. Mr. Fury, do you happen to know?
We do not have a date set for the next meeting.
Okay,
Thank you.
I did not believe we had one. So, and then ARB met on March 18th at 6 o'clock for a record-breaking 3-hour meeting. There were 10 cases on the agenda. Wow. Yeah, 3 hours. Zoom, this was via Zoom. So the first case was case 21. Hopefully my report won't be 3 hours. I'll try to talk really fast.
We'll take the short break.
Yeah. So the first was case 21-03-24, and I hope I get everything right. I've taken a lot of notes, but that was at 2495 East Aurora Road. This was a sheets rebuild by the GPD group. It was approved as noted, the note being that they wanted to add a side awning facing the development. The plan is that they're going to shut it down around June. It should be about a 5-month project, so they're completely revamping that sheets building. Then case 21-03-25 was at 10301 Dayflower Drive. It's a sunroom that was tabled until some further improvements were done to the planning of it. The other case was 21-03-26, and that was at 2542 East Aurora Road. The Plaza Grounds sign by Becker Signs. The variance, there were 2 parts. Their variance was approved. It was with a minimum of 3 feet back from the right-of-way. And then the sign was actually approved as submitted. The next was case 21-03-27, and that's at 2300 Edison Boulevard. Victory Innovation sign review, also by Becker Signs. There were 2 parts of this request. The first part of the request was approved, and the second part was approved as noted, the note being to center the name on the sign. Next case, 2472 on Warren Parkway. This was a gazebo. It was tabled until a more detailed plan could be submitted. Then there was case 21-03-29, and that was at 9145 Chamberlain Road. It was a screened porch by Yardman's Home, and that was approved as submitted. Case number 21-03-30 was at 9649 Chamberlain Road, new home by Wayne's Home, and that was also approved as noted, the note being to add a man door and some windows. Then case 21-03-32, or 31, I'm sorry, that 31, and that's 1701 Bridget Lane. It was a new home by Koblenz Homes that was approved as noted. They were asking to add 2 windows to the right elevation, a man door on the left elevation, and an egress window, so that was the note on that. Then they had another case, case 21-32, 21-03-32, and that's at 2396 Edison Boulevard, LJ Star Edition. This was by the Albert M. Higley Company. It's a 7,600 square foot addition, some warehouse space that was approved as submitted. Last case was 210333, and that was at 11660 Ravenna Road. It was KT Salon sign for review, and that was also approved as submitted. There was also a work session, and it was a work session on a home on 2126 Holmes Drive, and the question, it was a demolition inquiry, which I think I need to ask Mr. Maestros a little bit more about that. Their next meeting is scheduled for April 8th, and I believe they're hoping to meet in person. We do have a position open for another, it was Marge Gantos's last ARB meeting, and so I'd like to congratulate her and thank her for her service to ARB and to the city. She's been working here quite a while now. So that was the last one, and I think Shannon mentioned that there is, we're still advertising for positions, right?
That's correct, until this Friday at 4:30 p.m. And all of those openings are on mytwinsburg.com.
Okay, so please, people, it's a great committee. The JEDI committee did not meet. We're working on a meeting date for our subcommittee. Our next whole group meeting for the JEDI is April 12th at 6 p.m. And that's all I have for my report tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Stuffer. Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. Good evening. The Finance Committee met earlier this evening. The agenda went as follows. We had the approval of we had on there the 2021 permanent appropriations, the final presentations. We do have that legislation on our agenda tonight for our third and final reading. Tonight we had the Public Works Department, Fire Department, and the Police Department, all represented by those department heads, Chris Campbell, Chief Morgan, and Chief Noga. They went over their proposed 2021 budget for council to review. After question and answers, the Finance Committee did make a recommendation to council to go ahead and approve that budget tonight, again on its third and final reading. After that, our Finance Director, Mrs. Bucci-Cross, she presented the American Rescue Plan to us, which is the about $3.7 million that Twinsburg is going to be allotted. She told us tonight that 50% will be distributed in 2021 and 50% will be distributed in 2022. All the funds must be used by the end of December 31st, 2024. She also went over with us some possible uses or eligible uses for that money, as well as the non-eligible uses, which nothing at this point seems like it's set in stone. So until we get some more solid information, then I'm sure that you'll be hearing more about that and what that money can and will be used for. Other than that, that was the end of the meeting. Our next Finance Committee meeting will be April 27th at 6 o'clock. And that's the end of my report tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bellin.
Thank you. Good evening. I also attended this evening's Finance Committee meeting that Mr. Scafidi just reported on. I did want to point out one thing. Mrs. Bucci-Cross verified that should the 2.4 mils pass in May, that money cannot go into the general fund of the city of Twinsburg. It is only earmarked for police and fire. I know that there's been some question about that. I've received a couple questions about that from residents. As Mrs. Stauffer pointed out, the next committee for the JEDI will be on Monday, April 12th, 6 p.m. via Zoom. The next BZA meeting will be held tomorrow, Wednesday, March 24th, 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. There is one case on the agenda looking for a lot size variance on Cannon Road. And the first Public Works Committee meeting of 2021 will be held on Tuesday, April 13th at 6 p.m. Nothing further this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellin. Mrs. Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I did attend the finance meeting today, and it was a very great meeting. Last night, we had our subcommittee of JEDI, and our employment diversity subcommittee met starting at 6:30, and the purpose of the meeting was to determine goals and objectives for the group. Goals and objectives were agreed upon, and they include the following. The goal is the city of Twinsburg will have a diverse workforce that reflects the racial makeup of the community. This goal may change based on the census data that is set to come out in early summer. Currently, there are 161 full-time employees of the city, spanning over multiple departments. Within such, there are only 6 full-time Black employees. The objective is the recruitment, focus on where and how the city recruits minorities. Retention, focus on retention and promotion of minority employees once hired, with emphasis on training, mentoring, and promotional opportunities. Organizational climate and culture, ensuring an inclusive culture and climate with the continuation of diversity and inclusion training. This includes training on microaggression, implicit bias, white privileges, and etc. Organizational commitment, ensuring the department heads and city council are making diversity and inclusion a priority. As we move forward, the committee will look for 3 applicants that can provide professional consultation on diversity and equity in the areas of employment, policing, and city culture. This person will take stock of the city's current state and make recommendations on how to move forward with a comprehensive plan that includes action steps. Our next meeting will be next month. We do not have a date yet. On March 10th, I attended the Comprehension Plan Sustainability, and the Comprehension Plan Update Committee met on March 10th for a presentation by planning staff of a sustainability framework. The framework we're using was created by a nonprofit organization called the Institute for Local Government. It proposes 10 subject areas to consider, like energy conservation and land use design, for example. This is a very in-depth framework that will give the committee a lot of consideration when deploying goals for the updated comprehension plan. The committee has also looked at previous efforts the city has taken towards sustainability, and staff has created a fairly in-depth list of those efforts. We have attached, the PowerPoints that you could look at for the council people. So what I'll do, I'll give this information to Shannon and she will forward it to you. Also on March 10th, I did attend a ribbon cutting ceremony on Vale Drive. It was Infinity Eye Care, real small company, but it seems that they will probably get a lot of customers. They were very friendly. They even had dessert for us, and it was a very nice turnout. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Mr. Fury.
Good evening. I attended the Finance Committee, the Comprehensive Plan meeting, and the Environmental meeting. The next Environmental Commission meeting will be April 6th at 7 p.m. And I also attended the Tax Review Committee this week on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th. The purpose of the Tax Review and Tax Incentive Review Commission is to look at the top agreements where the Twinsburg Occupancy Program, which give a break on income tax to people who are willing to bring new workers or new revenues into the city, as well as the CRA agreements, which are community reinvestment agreements for people who are building new buildings or expanding their businesses, to give them a break on their investment as far as property taxes over the next few years. There are over about 23 agreements available, and the board consists of a member of the school board, the county, the city administration, and all the agreements that were reviewed are in good standing or exceeding the goals set forth for the discount. And those will be represented in Resolution 22 and 23. A couple people have mentioned things about the $3.7 million that may come to Twinsburg over the next few years. You know, that money has to be spent over that period of time quickly. It cannot be used for pensions. It cannot be banked for future projects. It has to be spent. And right now, they don't even have the rules together on how we'd have to spend it. That represents less than 2% of our annual budget per year over that 2-year period. So although it's a lot of money in the scheme of operating a 180 person city staff and investing in 190 road miles, lane miles of paved striped roads, it's less than 2% of our overall budget. I'd like you to support issue 2. We have the lowest property tax of city of anybody in Summit County. When we interviewed over 1,100 people, almost 70% thought that this was the best way to fund the city long term. 2.4 mils will go specifically to accounts in the police pension, fire pension, and police and fire capital improvement to buy new trucks. We talked about redoing a fire station. Again, our largest expense by departments, police and fire, are by far the largest pool of funds from the city's general revenue. So I'd just like to remind those who supported issue 24 that it was about the right to vote. But when it came to police and fire, you guys were going to go to the streets to support them. So I think it's time that you remember that commitment and go to the streets and support issue 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fury. Mr. Barr.
Good evening, thank you. Well said, Mr. Fury. Couldn't say it better, so I'll just let it stand.
You did, so I just said it for you.
Excellent, excellent point. I attended this evening's Finance Committee meeting. Mr. Scafidi reported on that. And just want to thank everybody, including other members of council, for just all being there. It's nice that everybody that sits up here is truly interested in what happens in a Finance Committee meeting, whether you're on it or not. So just like to see that level of involvement and commitment from my peers. The Planning Commission met on March 15th, about a week ago, and we touched on a couple of the same topics that Mrs. Stauffer dealt with in her marathon ARB meeting. The first of which was a final site plan approval at 2396 Edison Boulevard. Again, the applicant is LJ Starr. The general contractor is the Albert M. Higley Company. It was for a 7,600 square foot addition to their existing facility. That is permanent parcel number 64-05555, and that was passed 7-0, the final site plan for that by Planning Commission. The second item that Planning discussed that evening was another site plan approval, a final site plan approval for the Sheets location that's at 2495 East Aurora Road. That's the Sheets station over by McDonald's and 480 over there. They're actually going to be doing a full kind of scrape and rebuild of that facility. They're going to take the existing buildings, approximately 4,700 square feet, and increase the size to about 6,000 square feet. They are, although they're reducing some of the total number of pumps, they're reconfiguring the island and a few other things to better accommodate vehicular traffic. The bit of exciting news for our electric vehicle fans is that there are going to be 7 electric charging stations. Several of them will be dedicated specifically for the Tesla vehicles, and several will have the adapters for other vehicles that run on electricity. So I think that's pretty cool, this alternative energy. We're really embracing it, and I applaud Sheets for their investment into that and their continued investment here in the community. So there was a final site plan for that. Again, it's there's 2 parcels, permanent parcel number 64-04603 and 64-04604. That was approved 7-0 by Planning as well. And I believe Mrs. Stauffer stated, but just so everybody can plan for their summer travels, that gas station is probably going to be shuttered from like the end of June, beginning of July, for about 20 weeks. And hopefully the Circle K across the street will be opened up before then, so that we don't have an issue there in town. Otherwise, get-go will be overrun. The next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for 7 p.m., April 19th, here in council chambers. And we did host this last meeting in person, and it was nice to see members of the commission again, and I'm hoping that we keep our case numbers low and we can continue that trend. That concludes my report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. I attended the Finance Committee meeting, as that is one of my committees. And everyone has kind of mentioned some of the eligible uses and the non-eligible uses of the U.S. Treasury funds that were eligible to get the $3.7 million. I believe it was referred to that we could not deposit any of the funds into the pension fund, but also I want to make sure it was clear that it was also said that you can't use it to offset or any tax reductions or delay in any tax or tax increases. So just to clarify again, non-eligible uses as defined by the U.S. Treasury at this point in time. I did attend the Golf Advisory meeting, which was held Zoom. Weather really defines the success of the golf course. It's starting off to be a really great year. One big concern is while many of us have enjoyed walking on the course before when it was closed over the winter months, it's now open and there's really no walking, no biking, and it's for everyone's safety and concerns. So they asked me to reiterate that. And would like to also thank Marge Gantos for her service at the ARB meetings over the years. Moving on to the mayor's report. I do have a report from Mayor Yates. Starting with, he wanted me to remind everyone that branch pickup will start on April 15th. He also wanted to have some conversation on the tax levy, as there has been some discussions on Facebook that we don't need the levy because there's COVID-19 money that the city will be receiving. He also indicated that there is a flyer circulating with false information, and we want you to be informed voters, so please reach out to City Hall with any questions. That's all I have from the mayor. Moving on to department head reports.
There's none this evening.
There is none this evening. And then on to legislation. Ordinance 14, 2021.
The permanent appropriation ordinance for 2021 approved by council from estimates submitted by the mayor, providing for the ordinary expenses and other necessary expenses of the city of Twinsburg, Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 14, 2021 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. The reason for the emergency is to allow it to be effective by the end of the month as required. Is there any discussion on the emergency? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 14, 2021 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. This is the third reading for the permanent appropriations. The total budget is $41,916,265.18. Is there any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ordinance 14, 2021 passes 7-0. Ordinance 17, 2021.
An ordinance establishing Chapter 743 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Twinsburg titled Mobile Food Vehicle Regulations.
At this time, I would like to make a motion to amend Ordinance 17, 2021 to add our standard emergency clause. Is there a discussion on the emergency?
I'll second your motion.
Oh, thank you. Is there a discussion on the emergency?
The reason for the emergency is that we'd like to make sure that these rules are in place as the weather's nice as soon as possible.
Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if I do this right. I'd like to make a motion to place ordinance 17, 2021 on its third and final reading and declare it as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Is there any discussion on the emergency? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 17, 2021 as amended as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Scafidi seconds. Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ordinance 17, 2021 passes 7-0. Ordinance 21, 2021.
An ordinance amending section 127.07 of the codified ordinances of the city of Twinsburg regarding the capital improvement board.
This is the first reading to change the capital improvement section of the code to make the board non-board specific as requested by council at our last caucus meeting. Is there any discussion at this time? Resolution 22, 2021.
A resolution authorizing the continuation of various agreements under the Community Reinvestment Area Program created pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, section 3735.66 for real property tax abatement.
This resolution is done annually after the Tax Incentive Review Committee evaluates businesses to make sure they are continuing to meet the requirements of the agreements. All companies listed in the resolution have been approved by the committee to continue. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Resolution 22, 2021 passes 7-0. Resolution 23, 2021.
A resolution authorizing the continuation of various agreements to provide tax incentives under the terms and conditions of the Twinsburg Occupancy Program established by Ordinance 144, 2004.
The top agreements are also reviewed by the Tax Incentive Review Committee annually, and all companies in the resolution have been approved. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Is there any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Resolution 22, 2021 passes 7-0. Ordinance 24, 2021.
An ordinance accepting the bid of American Roadway Logistics for the 2021 road striping program and declaring an emergency.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and place ordinance 24, 2021 on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. The reason for the emergency is to award the bid as soon as possible. Is there any discussion on the emergency? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 24, 2021 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. This is for the 2021 road striping contract, and the amount is $94,269.25. Any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Ordinance 24, 2021 passes 7-0. Moving on to unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. I'd like to make a motion that City Council does not oppose the new liquor permit Ricer Food Company on Haddon Road doing business as Twinsburg Get-Go number 3224, and authorize the clerk to submit the form to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control.
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. This is for a new D1 permit. Does anyone want to have any discussion on that? Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
No.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-1. I'd like to make a motion to accept the quote from Item Ltd. doing business as Linnell Light for the Liberty Post crosswork to include reticular rapid flashing beacon, RRFBs, and in-road warning lights for under $25,000. The quote was actually $20,716.90. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bellin seconds. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to thank Miss Amy Moore for her continued work on that. I know that I'm not the only one up here that has gotten several questions about those crosswalks over the years, and I'm very excited to get them done. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mrs.
Yes.
Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. I'd like to make a motion to accept the quote from Item Ltd. doing business as Linnell Light for the Liberty Neely crosswalk to include reticular rapid flashing beacons, RRFBs, and in-road warning lights for under $25,000. The quote was actually $24,215.90. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Any discussion?
I'd like to thank Amy also. We've been talking about this for a while.
Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
I think I forgot to ask. Mr. Maestros, do you have anything this evening?
Thank you. Just briefly, I just want to point out that council tonight, you passed two resolutions approving continuation of tax abatement agreements. And the one thing we never mentioned is we had at least one, maybe two, Mr. Fury, companies that completed their agreements, right, that fell off this list.
They did.
And we never, I mean, those are 10-year agreements, and, you know, we never really recognize that.
Usually
We get
5 to 10-year agreements.
Right. So we talk about how, you know, we enter these agreements, but those companies completed the full 10-year agreement or 5-year term. They're still here in the city. They removed, they're paying full taxes now going forward. So I think that's something, you know, we always talk about the ones that are still on it, but those are kind of success stories we don't mention.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you. Ms. Collins, do you have anything this evening?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. There are no absent members to excuse, and our meeting is adjourned at 8:08.